So hello and welcome back yet again to another chapter of Charles Dickens's tale, A Tale of Two Cities. I just said tale twice. Anyway, you will probably see me in this same outfit for the next 3 or 4 videos because I am going to do a bit of recording ahead, mostly because I'm not sure what the weather is going to do. Fingers crossed we just end up with rain and maybe a little bit of ice and then a little bit more snow. But if the weathermen are correct, then we are supposed to be in line for this big, massive ice storm starting tonight that they're already saying, if we get this much ice, plan on your power being out. And I'm like, I'd rather not plan on my power being out, but I figure in the simplest way, if I make plans for it and get all set and get everything ready for a giant ice storm, then it'll all just turn out to be rain. At least that's the idea. We'll see if that's true or not. Like I said, I'm kind of hoping that they're wrong and that we either don't get that much or that it just, turns out to all be rain. And that this will all just be a silly precaution that I didn't need to take, but I'd rather take it. Plus, with my son and my son-in-law coming in sometime in the next 4 or 5 days, I figure a little bit of a pre-upload is probably a good idea this week while we figure out where we're putting everybody and unpack and do all that catching up, all that kind of fun stuff. So in our last few chapters, it looks like, despite the fact that Dr. Manette was absolutely sure he was going to be able to get his son-in-law out of prison, that did not happen. And now he's been in prison for over a year. And I guess we're just going to have to see what is going on now that it's been a year and 3 months. Also, I'm not entirely sure how to say this word, which is chapter 5's title, which is the woods. I don't know if it's Sawyer or Sawyer. I think it's Sawyer, but that is just a word that you don't see very often. So I'm going to go with Sawyer and hope that I'm pronouncing it right and hope that it's not in the chapter very much as we jump into Book 3 of A Tale of Two Cities with Chapter 5, The Wood-Sawyer. One year and 3 months. During all that time, Lucy was never sure from hour to hour but that the guillotine would strike off her husband's head the next day. Every day through the stony streets, the Turnbulls now jolted heavily, filled with the condemned. Lovely girls, bright women, brown-haired, black-haired, and gray. Youths, stalwart men, and old, gentle and peasant-born, all red wine for la guillotine, all daily brought into light from the dark cellars of the loathsome prisons and carried to her through the streets to slake her thirst. Liberty, equality, fraternity, or death. The last, the easiest to bestow, O guillotine. If the suddenness of her calamity and the whirling wheels of time had stunned the doctor's daughter into awaiting the result in idle despair, it would have been with her as it was with many. But from the hour when she had taken the white head to her fresh young bosom up in the garret of Saint Antoine, she had been true to her duty. She was truest to them in the season of trial, as all the quietly loyal and good always are. As soon as they were established in their new residence, and her father had entered on the routine of his avocation, she arranged the little household as exactly as if her husband had been there. Everything had its appointed place and its appointed time. Little Lucy she taught as regularly as if they had all been united in their English home. The slight devices with which she cheated herself into the show of a belief that they would soon be reunited, the little preparations for his speedy return, the setting aside of his chairs and books, these, and the solemn prayer at night for one dear prisoner especially amongst the many unhappy souls in prison and the shadow of death, were almost the only outspoken reliefs to Lucy's heavy mind. She did not greatly alter in appearance. The plain dark dresses, akin to morning dresses, which she and her child wore, were as neat and as well attended as the brighter clothes of happier days. She lost her color, and the old intent expression was a constant, not occasional thing, but otherwise she remained quite pretty and comely. Sometimes at night, on kissing her father, she would burst into the grief that she had repressed all day, and would say that her sole reliance under heaven was upon him. He always answered, "Nothing can happen to him without my knowledge, and I know I can save him, Lucy." They had not made the round of their changed life many weeks when her father said to her upon coming home one evening, "My dear, there is an upper window in the prison to which Charles can sometimes gain access at 3 in the afternoon. When he can get to it, which depends on many uncertainties and incidents, he might see you in the street, he thinks, if you stood in a certain place that I can show you. But you will not be able to see him, my poor child, and even if you could, it would be unsafe for you to make any sign of recognition." "Oh, show me the place, my father, and I will go there every day." From that time, in all weather, she waited there 2 hours. As the clock struck 2, she was there, and at 4 she turned resignedly away. When it was not too wet or inclement for her child to be with her, they went together. At other times she was alone, but she did not miss a single day. It was the dark, dirty corner of a small winding street. The hovel of a cutter of wood into lengths for burning was the only house at that end. Everything else was a wall. On the third day of her being there, he noticed her. "Bonjour, citizen." "Good day, citizen." This mode of address was now prescribed by decree. It had been established voluntarily some time ago among the more thorough patriots, but now it was a law for everyone. "Walking here again, citizen?" "Yes, you see me, don't you?" The Wood-Sawyer, who was a little man with a redundancy of gesture, he had once been a mender of roads, cast a glance at the prison, pointed at the prison, and putting his 10 fingers before his face to represent bars, peeped through them. "But that's not my business," he said, and went on sawing his wood. The next day he was looking out for her, and he accosted her the moment she appeared. "What, walking here again, citizen?" "Yes, I am." "Ah, a child as well. Your mother, is it not, my little one?" "Do I say yes, mamma?" whispered little Lucy. "Yes, dearest." "Yes, citizen." "Ah, but it is not my business. My work is my business. See my saw? I call it my little guillotine. La, 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 and off his head comes." The billet fell as he spoke, and he tossed it into a basket. "I call myself the Samson of the firewood guillotine. See here again, loo, and off her head comes. And now a child, tickle, tickle, pickle, pickle, and off its head comes. The whole family." Lucy shuddered as he threw two more billets into his basket, but it was impossible to be there while the Wood-Sawyer was at work and not be seen by him. After this, to secure his goodwill, she always spoke to him first and often gave him drink money, which he readily took. He was an inquisitive fellow, and sometimes when she had quite forgotten him in gazing at the prison roof and grates, and in lifting her heart to her husband, she would come back to herself to find him looking at her, with his knee on his bench and his saw stopped in its work. "But it's not my business," he would generally say at those times, and go to sawing again. In all weather, in the snow and frost of winter, in the bitter winds of spring, in the hot sunshine of summer, in the rain of autumn, and again in the snow and frost of winter, Lucy passed 2 hours of every day in this place, and every day on leaving it she kissed the prison wall. Her husband saw her, she learned from her father. It might be once in 5 or 6 times. It might be twice or thrice running. It might be not for a week or fortnight altogether. It was enough that he could and did see her when the chances served, and on that possibility she would have waited out the day 7 days a week. These occupations brought her around to the December month, wherein her father walked among the terrors with a steady head. On a lightly snowing afternoon she arrived at the usual corner. It was a day of some wild rejoicing and festival. She had seen the houses as she came along, decorated with little pikes and with little red caps stuck upon them, also with tricolored ribbons and the standard inscription. Tricolored letters were the favorite. Republic, one and indivisible, liberty, equality, fraternity, or death. The miserable shop of the Wood-Sawyer was so small that its whole surface furnished a very indifferent space for this legend. He had got somebody to scrawl it up for him, however, who had squeezed death in with the most inappropriate difficulty. On his housetop he displayed a pike and cap, as a good citizen must, and in a window he had stationed his saw, inscribed as his little Saint Guillotine. For the great sharp female was by that time popularly canonized. His shop was shut, and he was not there, which was a relief to Lucy and left her quite alone. But he was not far off, for presently she heard a troubled movement and a shouting coming along which filled her with fear. A moment after, and a throng of people came pouring round the corner by the prison wall, in the midst of whom was the Wood-Sawyer, hand in hand with the Vengeance. There could not be fewer than 500 people, and they were dancing like 5,000 demons. There was no other music than their own song. They danced to the popular Revolution song, keeping a ferocious time that was like the gnashing of teeth in unison. Men and women danced together, women danced together, men danced together as hazard brought them together. At first, they were a mere storm of coarse red caps and coarse wool rags, but as they filled the place and stopped to dance around Lucy, some ghastly apparition of a dance figure gone raving mad rose among them. They advanced, retreated, struck at one another's hands, clutched at one another's heads, spun around alone, caught one another and spun round in pairs till many of them dropped. While those were down, the rest, linked hand in hand, and all spun around together. The ring broke, and in separate rings of 2 and 4 they turned and turned, until they all stopped at once and began again, struck, clutched, and tore, then reversed the spin and all spun round the other way. Suddenly they stopped again, paused, struck out the time afresh, formed into lines the width of the public way, and with their heads low down and their hands high up, swooped away screaming. No fight could have been half so terrible as this dance. It was so emphatically a fallen sport, a something once innocently delivered to all devilry, a healthy pastime changed into a means of angering the blood, bewildering the senses, and stealing the heart. Such grace as was visible in it made it the uglier, showing how warped and perverted all things good by nature were to become. The maidenly bosom bared to this, the pretty, almost child's head thus distracted, the delicate foot mincing in this slough of blood and dirt, were types of a disappointed and disjointed time. This was the Carmangole. As it passed, leaving Lucy frightened and bewildered in the doorway of a Wood-Sawyer's house, the feathery snow fell as quietly and lay as white and soft as if they had never come. "Oh, my father!" For he stood before her when she lifted up the eyes that she had momently darkened with her hand. "Such a cruel, bad sight." "I know, my dear. I know. I have seen it many times. Don't be frightened. Not one of them would harm you." "I am not frightened for myself, my father, but when I think of my husband and the mercies of those people—" "We will set him above their mercies very soon. I left him climbing to the window, and I came to tell you. There is no one here to see. You may kiss your hand towards the highest shelving roof." "I will, my father, and I send him my soul with it." "You cannot see him, poor dear?" "No, father," said Lucy, weeping as she kissed her hand. "No." There was a footstep in the snow. It was Madame Defarge. "I salute you, citizens," said the doctor. "I salute you." This in passing, nothing else. Madame Defarge gone like a shadow over the white road. "Give me your arm, love. Pass from here with an air of cheerfulness and courage for his sake. That was well done." They left the spot. "It will not be in vain. Charles is summoned for tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" "There is no time to lose. I am well prepared, but there are precautions to be taken that could not be taken until he was actually summoned in front of the tribunal. He has not received the notice yet, but I know that he will presently be summoned for tomorrow and removed to La Concierge. I have good information. You're not afraid, are you?" Lucy could barely answer. "I trust you." "Do so. Your suspense is nearly ended, my darling. He will be restored to you within a few hours. I have encompassed him with every protection. Now I must see Laurie." The doctor stopped. There was a heavy lumbering of wheels within their hearing, and they both knew too well what it meant. 1, 2, 3. 3 thumbrels flaring away with their dread loads over the snow. "I must see Laurie," said the doctor, and he turned her another way. Mr. Laurie was still in his trust, and he had never left it. He and his books were in frequent requisition as to property confiscated and made national. What he could save for the owners he saved. No better man living to hold fast by what Tellson's had in keeping and to hold in his peace. A murky red and yellow sky and a rising mist from the Seine denoted the approach of darkness. It was almost dark when they arrived at the bank. The stately residence of Monsignor was altogether blighted and deserted. Above a heap of dust and ashes in the court ran the letters, National Property, Republic One and Indivisible, Liberty, Equality, Fraternity, or Death. Who could that be with Mr. Lorry? The owner of the riding coat upon the chair, who must not be seen? From whom, newly arrived, did he come out agitated and surprised to take his favorite into his arms? To whom did he appear to repeat her faltering words when, raising his voice and turning his head towards the door of the room from which he issued, and said, "Removed to the concierge and summoned for tomorrow"? And that was the, at least to me, slightly confusing end of the chapter. It almost seemed to have a weird time jump in it, and I even flipped back to see if I had missed a page, but no, I didn't. That was just a Dickens-esque, a Dickinson. Anyway, that is where we are going to leave it tonight. Thank you, as always, for listening. I'm probably, like I said, going to do a couple more in this outfit, so don't be surprised if everything looks exactly the same tomorrow with just a new chapter. But with that, I am going to leave you. Please do hit the thumbs up on your way out. It does always make me smile and supposedly helps something. And I will see you tomorrow.